sometimes throughout a lease, usually at the start or at the end, the actual rent payment date and the amount needs to be adjusted or pay a part of a month. Can be a little bit confusing. There's dates involved, there's dollars involved, there's a little bit of maths. So I thought an example of how it works might help. So let's say that a lease commences on, pick a date, could be any date of the month, let's say it's the 9th of March. The first month's rent that's payable, we'll take that rent payable through to the previous day, in this example the 8th of the following month, being the 4th. Let's put some dollars around it to give a little bit of meaning. Let's say that the rent is $420 per week. Now we need to know how much that is per day, which if you divide it by 7, will give you $60 per day. And we also need to know what that is per month, and if you multiply that by 365 and divide it by 12, it will give you a rent per month of $1,825 per month. You can do that calculation with any rent that you like for your situation. So, on the rent commencement date, or the lease pays $1,825, pays that rent up to the previous day of the following month. Now for many agents, owners, renters, the lease or the rent will continue to be paid on the 9th of the month up to the previous day, in this example the 8th of the following month, for the duration of the lease. But at Wood Property we have a common rent payment date. And that payment date is actually the 20th of each month. So in this example, we need to adjust the rent. So instead of paid up to the 8th of the 5th, we only want the renter for the second month to pay up to the 19th. 19th of the 4th. My mistake. And then the rent for the balance of the lease will be paid on the 20th of each month up to the previous day of the following month. And that amount will obviously be $1,825. And that continues to be paid on the 20th of each month for the duration of the lease. But as you can see, we've left a little gap here of where the rent hasn't been paid. So we need to calculate what that adjustment rent is. Now the way that we do that is we calculate the number of days from this date to this inclusive. And in this example, it's 11 days. So we multiply the number of days by the rent per day, which in this example is 60, and that equals $660. And that is the adjustment rent that is paid on the 9th of the 4th and takes the rent payable up until the 19th of the 4th, and then the full month's rent continues to be paid for the duration of the lease on the 20th of each month. Now the only other time that rent sometimes needs to be adjusted is at the end of a lease, when a renter's moving out. And if they're not moving out on the 19th of a month, then we need to calculate what the final adjustment rent is. So let's use another example. Let's say that a renter decides to move out on the 5th of October. Now we need to work out what the rent paid is back to the previous month. In this example would be the 20th of the 9th. So they're not paying the rent for this following period, which would normally be up to the 19th of the 10th, because they're not occupying the property for that time. So again, we need to calculate what the rent is for the number of days from the 20th of the 9th through to the 15th of the 10th, and again that's inclusive of those 2 days. So in that example, it is 16 days. Assuming the rent is still at $60 per day, that equals $960. And that is the amount that's payable on the 20th of the 9th and takes the rent payable through to the 5th of the 10th, which is the vacate date. So that's an example of how the rent is calculated, how the rental adjustments are made, and I hope that helps.